Hi guys, it's Miss Painter. I miss you guys. Today we are going to be talking about math, and our new topic for math this week, which you already know, is decimals. So you might be wondering, what is a decimal? And so today I'm going to explain to you what is a decimal. Why do we use decimals? If you guys remember, all the way back at the beginning of the school year, we actually studied decimals when we studied place value. So I just want to review with you today what place value is all about, and then we're going to talk about how does decimals fit into all of that. Are you guys excited to learn decimals? Awesome! Okay, so today I want to talk to you about place value. Remember when we studied place value, we had place value blocks. Remember we had the little place value block. Do you guys remember what the little place value block stands for? It stands for ones, the ones place value. Okay, and then we added to that another place value block, this place value block, which you guys remember represents the tens place value, right? It actually takes 10 of these little cubes to equal one whole of this cube. So we have ones and we have tens. Next, we added to that, the next place value group is hundreds. So you have ones first, takes 10 of these just to equal one of these rods, these 10 rods. And then the next place value after that is hundreds, because it takes 10 of these rods to equal one of these, 10 tens, because 10 times 10 you guys know, because you know multiplication equals 100. So now we have ones, tens, and hundreds. But next we add the biggest of all. We have ones, tens, hundreds. You guys know what comes next. It's the thousand cube. Remember we studied geometry. This is a cube. It's got 6 faces. It's got 12 lines. You guys remember what a cube is. So we have ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and that's what we learned about place value. So I'm going to show you that on the board, what the place value chart looks like. Okay, this is just a review of something we've already studied before. Okay, so on the board up here, what does that look like? It looks like, here's where we start, over here, with ones. This is the ones place value, right? Next after that is tens. After that is hundreds. And then we learned after that is thousands. Now there's something that separates the hundreds and the thousands. I think you guys all know, what is it? It is a comma. You gotta have a comma between the hundreds and the thousands, all right? So if I had a number like 4,892, I'm gonna put the 4 in the thousands place, because it represents thousands, the 8 in the hundreds place, 800, 90 means I have 9 tens, so the 9 goes in the 10 spot, and 2 means I have 2 little ones, so the 2 goes in the 1 spot. But we know that sometimes there's numbers that are not just ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. We know we can go even bigger than that. We can go 10,000s, 100,000s. We can just keep going, right? We can go millions and billions and trillions. But we also know there's numbers smaller. There's actually numbers smaller than just the ones place, right? Because we studied fractions. And fractions are just like decimals, written differently. Do you guys remember when we studied fractions? So let me remind you of what it looked like when we studied fractions. Okay, everybody, remember when we had these fractions kits? The reason why we had these fraction kits is because there's actually numbers that are smaller than one whole. So if I have one whole cookie, right, you get the whole thing. But your mom or dad asked you to share your cookie with your sister or brother, and so you don't get the whole cookie, right? So sometimes there's actually numbers that you have to write that are smaller than one whole. And what that looks like is maybe you have to do halves. You get half the cookie and your sister gets half the cookie. So what you get is there were 2 pieces and you get 1 out of those 2 pieces. So you get 1/2 of the cookie, right? Okay, but sometimes instead of getting the whole of something, you certainly don't need to eat a whole pizza, right? So your parents are gonna divide the pizza up even smaller, right? So maybe you're gonna divide the pizza up into 8 slices. And so if your parents divide the pizza up into 8 slices, and let's just say you only get 2 of those slices, the fraction would look like this. 2 eighths. 2 eighths. You get 2 eighths of the pizza. 1/8 and 1/8 makes 2 eighths, right? We can add fractions together. This also represents the same thing as having 1/4, because we talked about how fractions could be equal, right? Okay, what about if you have 10 of something though? What if you have 10 pencils, okay? You have 10 pencils and you are gonna get 2 of those pencils and then you're gonna give the rest away. So you get to keep 2 out of the 10 pencils. What that looks like then is still looks like a fraction. You can still use your fraction kit. You get 2, 1/10 and 1/10 equals 2/10. But here's something really cool. When you have fractions that are in tenths, hundredths, or thousands, you can put them in the form of a decimal. And I'm gonna show you what that looks like, okay? So, when are we gonna use decimals? Like, why are we learning what tenths, hundredths, and thousands will look like? It's because you use decimals when you're timing something. For example, if you guys today did a little experiment to see how long it takes you to do something. For example, if I tell you to do 20 jumping jacks, you can time yourself and see how many seconds long it would take you to do 20 jumping jacks. Now, I know some of you out there could do it super fast because you're amazing at sports and athletics. I think all of you are really good at this. So today, I timed myself doing 20 jumping jacks, and this is what I did. You get a stopwatch or a phone, and you say, ready, go, and you time yourself. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can get really fast. 6, 7, 8, 9, and you do 20, and guess how long it took me to do 20 jumping jacks? It took me 7.13 seconds. So the way I would write that, so I come over here to my place value, right? I'm not gonna be in the thousands. It didn't take me thousands of seconds to do the jumping jacks. Or hundreds, it didn't take me hundreds of seconds to do the jumping jacks. Or tens, I'm gonna go to the ones because it only took me 7 seconds to do the jumping jacks, okay? So I'm gonna put the 7 here, right? And then it actually took me some extra time to do the jumping jacks, right? 7.13 seconds. So I'm gonna put a point here. And what does this point represent? The decimal point, right? And then there's a 1 and a 3. What does the 1 and the 3 actually stand for? Well, when we go beyond thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones, and we go to something that's not even a whole 1 yet, because I didn't get to 8 seconds, right? This 1 actually stands for a new place value that I know you guys know because this is a review. It is the 10th place with a TH there, okay? And what does this 3 represent? The 3 represents hundredths with a TH, right? And you can actually keep going in decimal place value and go all the way to thousands place value. So that's what decimals looks like. It goes tenths, hundredths with a TH, thousandths with a TH. Tenths, hundredths, thousands. But anytime you're doing decimals, you have to remember it doesn't even equal 1 whole yet. It's not even a whole thing. So here's another example of when you would use decimals, not just to time something, but also in money, which I know you guys love to learn money. So we all know that money is so fun to learn about, right? And hopefully maybe you get allowance or you do chores and so your parents are giving you money for different things. That's a great skill because you're learning at a young age how to count your money, how to save your money, how to tithe your money, how to keep up with your money, and how to add and subtract your money with your own spending. But money is a great way to show decimals because it would be really great if you had a whole dollar. That would be awesome, right? You could do lots of cool things with $1 or even several dollars. But What if you didn't even have a whole dollar, right? You guys know that when you do money and you write money, there's a decimal point because there's change that comes after that. Sometimes you don't even have a whole dollar, right? So what if I had just a penny? A penny is what decimal point? Is it 0.1 if I have a penny? Is it 0.10? What would a penny look like if all I had was a penny? Well, let's think about it. Of how many pennies would it take to equal this entire dollar? How many pennies would it take to make one whole dollar? You're correct. It would take 100 pennies just to equal this dollar. So if I was going to write that on the board, and I know it might be a little hard for you guys to see this, so I'll try to write it as big as I can for you guys, okay? If I was gonna write a penny, I'm gonna put my decimal point, because it's not even a whole, right? So there's a decimal point. There's not 10 pennies that equal a dollar, so I can't put it in the tenths place. There's 100 pennies that equal $1. So I'm gonna put it in the hundredths place with a TH, right? So I'm gonna put a 1 there. What do I put in the tenths place now because there's nothing there? You have to put a 0 there. So this is what a penny looks like if you were to write a penny. 0.01. 0.01 makes a penny because remember, it takes 100 of these pennies to equal $1, okay? All right, but what about dimes? Okay, dimes are also counting by tens, right? So how many dimes does it take then to equal one whole dollar? How many dimes, remember counting by tens, does it take to equal $1? You're correct again. You guys are so smart. It takes 10 dimes to equal one whole dollar. So how do I write dimes as a decimal point? Because now we're not saying there's 1 out of 100 equal, we're only saying 10 equal $1. So how am I gonna write that? So over here, to do a decimal again, remember you have to have a decimal point, right? But now it's not 1 out of 100, it takes 10 to equal $1. So if we only have 1 dime, that's 1 out of 10, it looks like this. Again, there's an empty space here. If there's an empty space here, you can put a 0. So this is what a dime would look like if I'm writing dimes as a decimal point, right? And you can even do this for a quarter, right? What in the world, how many quarters? Guys, do you guys remember how many quarters it takes to equal $1? 4, right? But one of these quarters equals how much cents? 25 cents equals a quarter, right? So that means you have 25 cents out of 100 because it takes 100 cents again to make a what? It takes 100 cents to equal $1. So if you have 25 out of 100, how would I write that as a decimal point? Well, I would go like this. I would go back to my decimal point here, decimal point, and I'm gonna have a 25 cents means you have 20, which is 2 tens. So I'm gonna put a 2 in the tens place, and you have 5 ones, so I'm gonna put a 5 here. It means 0.25, 25 out of 100. So can I write that as a fraction also? Absolutely. 25 out of 100 as a fraction would look like this. 25 over 100. That means 25 out of 100 or 0.25. So something else cool that you can do with decimals is there's several different ways to write a decimal, the same way as there's several different ways to write a standard number. So remember at the beginning of the school year, we learned about standard form, expanded form, and written form. So today I'm going to show you all of those with a decimal because in your packet this week, you're going to have to write decimals in standard form, expanded form, and written form. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, I'm actually gonna pull up the camera a little bit closer to the board because I know you guys are having a hard time seeing the board, I can imagine. Okay, do you see this right here? Again, we're studying decimals. We have our place value here, ones, tens, hundreds, Thousands, that's if you have whole numbers. But if you have a decimal, remember there's a decimal point here, and then you have your decimal, which is tenths, hundreds, thousands. If you're gonna write a decimal, 25 out of 100, 0.25, right? And you can also write that as a fraction, 25 out of 100. But now let me show you decimals written in different ways. It's gonna be standard way, expanded way, and written form, okay? So let me erase this for you guys. I hope you guys are having a great Tuesday. I hope you're having fun at home. I'm wondering, are you in your pajamas? Is your dog or your pet around you? Is your mom or dad helping you with your schoolwork? I can't wait to talk to all of you and hear how you're doing with math. You guys are an amazing class. I think you're gonna do great with online learning because you're so intelligent, so smart. If you guys have any questions, remember you can always call me and ask. But I wanna show you one more thing before our video ends today, okay? All right, here is the standard way to write a decimal. So let's pick a decimal. Let's do 3.25, okay? So this is 3 and, when you get to a decimal, you say and, 3 and 25 hundredths. But this is just the standard way to write it, 3.25, okay? If you're doing a race and you finish the race in 3.25 seconds, that's what it would look like, okay? You can time yourself doing an activity today. We did jumping jacks. You can go run a race outside, time yourself with a stopwatch, and look at the decimal that's on the watch, and you can see how decimals are used. You can also practice it with money today. But you can also write this in expanded form. What does this 3 actually stand for? It stands for 3 wholes. So we're gonna put a 3 here. Plus, what does this 2 actually stand for? It stands for 0.2. What does this 5 actually stand for? 0.05. Because it's 5 out of 100. This is 2 tenths. 5 out of 100, 2 tenths, okay? Now, how do I write that in written form? In written form, it's just words. This is you guys' least favorite way to write it. I know, because you have to write out all the words, but it's really good practice. One day when you're writing checks, big checks for large companies, you're gonna have to know how to write this out. So here we go. You're gonna write 3, the decimal you say and, 25, you need to make a dash for 5, hundredths. Now, when you do a decimal, remember you have to put the TH on the end, hundredths. Okay, in my next video, I'm gonna be showing you guys a little bit more about decimals. We're also gonna be talking about how to add and subtract decimals, how to round decimals, and how to compare and order decimals. I hope you guys are having a great day. Remember, decimals are just like a fraction. They're just written with a point. Let me show you one more thing. Okay, again, if you have 6 tenths, how do I write that as a decimal? What does it mean? It means 6 out of 10. So I'm going to put a point here. I'm not going to go in the hundredths place right now or the thousands place right now. I'm only going to go in the tenths place. So it looks like this, 0.6. So practice that today. Practice making decimals out of tenths, hundredths, and thousands. I hope you guys have an awesome day. I love you.